In Brazil, we just witnessed an amazing campaign. And when I say that, it's part of what's happened in the world. Just a small history thread. In 1960, John F. Kennedy won the presidency because he was able on TV to be much better than a more prepared candidate, Nixon. That was like unheard of. You can always say that a great orator, a speechwriter like Lincoln, was able to convince people back in the day, in the 1800s, and by far, most would agree he was one of the most effective presidents in American history. He was also one of the presidents that was able to manage a crisis very similar to what we're living now, which, by the way, that movie, Civil War, I just hate it. I hate it that something like that can happen and that people do not discuss that thing. Not the movie, but I'm saying an idea. We should be aware because that could happen. That has happened in the past. Brothers versus brothers. And that should never happen again in US soil. Because one of the most incredible speeches that talks about the nature and the fabric around the idea of America, it was in Gettysburg. For those of you who never walked those grounds, in 1863, I believe, or 61, not sure, Lincoln gave a speech because they were consecrating that area to a cemetery for both sides. Both sides died. It was a grave battle. It was a blood battle. But it was a battle fought for an ideal of a country that was conceived on the ideal of liberty, on the ideal that everybody was received those rights endowed by a creator. And that's why the US is such a powerful nation. Yes, the US is losing power because that fabric, that basis that made Americans so great, an ideal of strong families, strong values, the protection of the innocent, the protection of minorities, the discourse, the freedom to speak, that what made America great. That's why Europe was never able to catch up. And that's why we need to preserve with all cost. And we don't need wars. We have something called elections, which elections were literally created to avoid conflict, war. An election is a war without blood, basically, not killing each other. Just words. And by the way, words don't kill. Words don't hurt. Guns, feast, violence, hurt. Okay? We should get that taken care of. So once again, Israel, US, and Brazil. Brazil is a nation that literally copied the US political system, the US judicial system in a way, but then our laws are based in code law, which is mostly European. So it's a salad. So we brought different people, we have different visions about things, we have a welfare state, we have somewhat of an economy, and we are an example of things that work and things that don't work. What we need in Brazil is a little bit of everything. We need to teach the world about living in peace because São Paulo, for example, which was we were talking about the campaign, we're going to go a little bit more into the details on that particular subject because it was an amazing campaign that made it evident to most people that there's a system, the rules are rigged. And when I say this, I don't mean anything disrespectful to the rig of elections, but the rig of the system. Even to become a candidate, you have to go through a funnel and you have to go through hoops that nobody should have to. Candidates should be able to become candidates to represent whatever they believe, whatever the people want, without any of those red tapes. That aside, Brazil, in São Paulo, you have Jews, Arabs, people from different backgrounds, living in peace, being friends, not even segregated by like neighborhoods or like ghettos like you had in Europe or you have in the US, very segregated neighborhoods where you have, different ethnicities. They're a mix. We are really, Brazil is really like a melting pot. And out of it, you have something new. You have a Brazilian that have a lot of different ways of looking at the world. There are a lot of lessons that we need to teach the world and a lot of lessons we need to take from the world. That's my vision, at least. And if you join, if you share that vision that we can all learn with each other, well, we should have this conversation more, other times. Politics, it's important. Economic growth, it's relevant. Everything, it's really important. The environment, how we deal with people, how we deal with our environment as in general. People are empty. We're all looking to something to believe. We lost at some point, and a lot of people lost faith because essentially our beings must believe in something greater than us. For some, like me, as a Christians, we believe in God. So life is easier, okay? But you don't need to believe that something exists. But in the same way, you're believing things that are not true. Things and ideas that will not and have not live to succeed. At the same time, socialism has some, maybe we have look at socialism and communism in a wrong way. And what I mean by that, we all criticize, but there's a say that no pure lie exists and no pure truth exists because we're imperfect.